I promised myself that I'd keep going. And it's hard when you don't have any support. But I think part of it is that some of it was ran off, partially because some people aren't healed enough to understand my situation. Not even healed enough that it would affect their life to know what I go through. And that sucks for me. It's understandable. But, you know, at the same time, um, like I have to build a support system that, you know, at one time that, you know, that being, um, mentally abused was enough to keep me in the situation that I was in. And, mentally abused in a way that actually does affect my ability to use my hands cognitively properly parts of the time. Um, so I'm trying not to be stupid about how to, regain myself. That part of my reality is completely fine and normal. And part of me needs to learn to trust people. And some people live their life by pushing others away. But, like some people grow up in a home where their parents come up behind them, put their hand on their back and ask them, "How was your day? Is this your homework? Are you going to piano practice? Can I take you?" Like I had a mother who would go through the actions, but she herself, having been very, I think that she thought so fast that um, she never really gained she never gained, any kind of, people weren't actually able to grasp the level of expertise that, like she was actually, working at very high speeds and completing things before people could say thank you, or, like missing this transactional reality and then feeling screwed over by it. It's a hard place because when you really want to, um, like create something that you feel good about, that, like it it's like skipping the part where that you really kind of, um I, I'm wanting to use the wrong word, and I don't want to do that here. Like you can kind of, like really slowly, genuinely say, "Hey, food, I have some of the food that you've never ever eaten." And, it's the same for me. That I actually had to figure out, like you're not accepting any recognition for what you've done. In order for me to realize that, you know, if people spend the time to say, "I really like the piece of art that you made, they took the time to tell you that is all this is. Somebody noticed. You took the time to notice what I spent my time on. Do you realize how many people get into their however old and they say, "Where's my life?" It's dehydrated. You need water. This is water. Hello, Kay. Welcome in. If you were only ever, if you were only taught one way to let yourself be understood because, you never grew out, that it's hard to know that there is another way. Like they say more than one way to skin a cat, but some people look at that and say, I've never seen anybody skin a cat. And thanks for coming in, Kay. The part about this is that we sometimes as adults have to go learn what we didn't learn from our adults. That, like, I think that it was mistaken that maybe that there was some kind of unspoken truth that maybe somebody else it was overlooked, that and that's sad. It's sad because I think I kept, being strung along to the prize. The prize just being something simple like having a husband someday, or, being able to use my mind to afford the things that I need for myself. Like it's just having been led along by something that doesn't actually, you know, make money, that makes money for other people. And but like I always was, try to, be a person that can provide for. I always liked Oprah. Oprah was really big for me. I shaped my way in ways of Oprah. Oprah believes in Jesus. She believes in the Bible. And so, it was like a lot of karmic belief, like coming back to, see that, I still have to continue to believe in something that has not yet served me. It's hard, because if you really trust and believe in something for, let's say 20 years, then, how well can we disregard the fact that, I just needed the time to learn that, I basically had to take a picture of my whole life and study it and then build a new picture that looks just like it. I called it PPP, painting a perfect picture. And, for me, like, some people leave their old life behind, but some people, they're like, no, like, somebody put a lot of time into that, that wants me to live my life. And I want to know why that this has never worked for me. And Excuse me. This is probably unacceptable, but it doesn't really matter. I'm running water. I have to get to the point where that I accept that, you know, I can still, as some people, they go after a goal and then they turn and say F it and choose a new one, right? Some people, their goal is to choose a new one. And for me, it's just like being so mad at this goal and then, saying, well, maybe I just didn't understand what was in the picture to begin with. Maybe I didn't understand like, what was the point of high school? What was the point of middle school? Why are some people homeschooled? Why? Just this endless reality of why can't I perform what other people does? I know you can't see this very well, but I'm starting the coffee. Like in some realities, like that's all that there is that like I think that like whenever that something bites you, you pull back. Like I've pulled back on so many things. I've been bit so many times. And it's funny, just thinking in general, like I've never really been a big fan of cats, that they bite me when I see them. And so I never really liked cats. I've like tried to like them. I like animals, but I had this problem with a lot of them biting me, even ones that don't actually normally bite. It's just a part of some stupid thing that got mixed up with some other stupid thing. The point is that, I never really actually got to drive my car. Like, Ferris Bueller's friend's dad had it, and I want my car. And that's just the truth. And like to stay. Oh shit. To stay in a place like this that is unselfish, that I have, really worked hard to exist in a place where it is nearly inhabitable. And by the way, it's not recommended. But where are my arms? Like, what are arms? I don't know. I don't know. And, like, I don't really want to call people out on this, but, I think some people try to play doctor over other people's lives. And, like, it's one thing to try to completely take over, but it'd be another thing to just say, this is what I do. Like, not times two, like, not this is the way, or not like, it's just, it's a game that people need to be watered. Like, I like your artwork is enough for me. Like I right now, like I have problems like where I feel like my arms are just flashing, like they're not there. Like I feel like that I'm gathering myself from the system. Like, and I think some people, and this is really important, but some people actually, they feel like that they can't, that they did something wrong. The fact is, the government wants you to train yourself to be independent. It's just that they're not going to sit there with a watering can and say, start building. But I will. Thank you.